Surprise! We decided to do it live this time.
We're doing it live, man. You know why? Because our lives are live. So let's just do it live. We can do it, Jacob. Come on. It ain't like we haven't been live on all these other shows. So let's roll, man. We can do it.
And it saves me from having to edit the video together. So
yeah. So you know what? It's raw. If we screw up, we screw up. But that's life. You know what I mean? We own it. If I bomb a joke, I'm just gonna call it out. It's all good. Let's just have fun.
Yes, and with that, I am Jacob Barber. This is Austin Howell. Welcome to a podcast about movies. And today we are going to go through several different genres. I think we have about 12-ish.
Something like that. It might be 13. Like I don't know. A dozen or so. A dozen or so genres of film.
And we will be going through some picks that we feel are underrated or hidden gems. I think I have kind of a mix of both hidden gems and underrated. Really, there are a few in here that I just feel like I wanted to talk about. That
same with me. Like it's like that, but it's also movies I feel like don't get talked about enough. You know, maybe I just want to bring them up again and feel like they deserve another bump. You know what I mean? Or people should revisit or go back to stuff like that. That broad genre. You know, just movies we really they're passionate about that we want to bring up and make sure people have seen.
Yes, I had to stretch it for the documentary category because I really don't watch a lot of documentaries, so I kind of took a different approach for that one.
Well, you know what? I'll supplement you because I've got a whole bunch of them. So I love this stuff. I love documentaries, so especially good ones. So I'll bring up a fair amount of them just to recommend. You know what I mean? So it'll be fun.
Yeah, my pick for that, it's definitely not an underrated one, but I went more forgotten. I think I don't hear people talking about this today. Like I feel like it definitely was talked about when it came out, but nowadays not so much. So we got about 12. We'll go back and forth. We'll each pick a genre. We tried to get at least one pick and then one honorable mention. I at least picked one and then an honorable mention, although narrowing it down to that was a little tough at times.
Yeah,
but
I did 2 or 3 for most of them. Some of them I went 3, and then documentary. I actually have more than that just because there's a lot I want to recommend that don't that just because documentaries are fun, especially the good ones. Because there's a lot of documentaries. You know, some of them are like maybe the topic is okay, but maybe the documentary is just fine. You know, but I think all of the ones I have on here are really entertaining and have fun subject matter. So we'll get to that when we get to it. But yes, I've got 2 or 3 for each of them. So yeah.
Okay. So where should we start? I'll let you choose the first
I don't know.
genre.
You know, let's just kind of go in alphabetical order maybe to start. So maybe we'll start with a little action adventure. So let's go action adventure. You know, and let's get the action started here on the show. So maybe we'll each just bounce them back and forth with some picks. Sounds good.
That sounds good to me. Yeah.
All right. Well, I'm going to recommend one. It's an international film that does get a lot of praise in the action community, but because it's an international film, I just want to make sure and recommend it for people who haven't seen it. And I was just watching it actually with my roommate the other day, who just wanted to watch a great action movie with a little martial arts action. So you know, I'm going to talk about The Raid. You know, The Raid from 2011, which is awesome. And if for anybody who hasn't seen it, who loves both great and it's fun because. And we might talk about it also in the One Location movies because it all pretty much takes place in this one apartment building. But it's an Indonesian film starring Iko Uwais, who's become kind of a star. He's bounced around a couple of the mainstream movies like Mile 22. He was even in The Force Awakens. Him and the other Mad Dog for the movie were in that movie for a second. Even though they didn't kick anybody's ass, they should have. But yeah, like The Raid is a lot of fun. It's a very simple premise. We follow Rama, this police officer. He's on like a SWAT team, and they're going to raid a drug lord's kind of apartment building. You know, not everybody in the apartment building is necessarily part of his gang, but most of them are. So they're going to go get him, but he's on the top floor, and they got to work their way up floor by floor and try to not be seen. Of course, things go wrong, as they do, and they get trapped and have to kind of fight their way out. So it starts out as kind of a run and gun movie, as they get caught, some shooting action, some bouncing around, and we eventually break it down to where it's Rama fighting for his life, literally, but some amazing fight choreography. I mean, some of the best fights and fight choreography you'll ever see. There's a couple of Holly fights that are just brutal. Tremendous camera work where it's just all great choreography, where there's no shaky cam. They pull back, let the guys do their thing. You can tell exactly what's going on in every scene, much like the John Wick films. They're just incredibly done. So yeah, I highly recommend, if you have not gone and seen The Raid. I believe it's called The Raid Redemption, but it's really just The Raid. And its sequel is very good as well. So The Raid is one of my picks for a movie that, if you have not gone and seeked it out, please do. It's excellent.
And just to answer this question, I think it's also yes, people love that movie, but I feel like general movie audiences maybe don't know about it as much.
It's not as mainstream as something like the John Wick films, things like that, because it only had a limited. I saw it in a theater over here, but it was only in theaters for a week. I feel like it got a little more notoriety once it came on. Once it came out on Blu-ray and DVD and things like that. Again, we say underrated / hidden gems / movies that need to be talked about more. So I understand that there's movie lovers, action buffs that know about this movie. I'm talking more about just mainstream casual fans, or ones who don't watch a lot of foreign films. That's why I'm recommending this, just because it's from Indonesia, things like that. So that's the only reason I bring up The Raid as one of my picks.
Yeah, so I'm definitely going to go more adventure. I debated putting this in with when we, talk about animated, but I figured I'll put it in here because there are some more animated movies that I want to talk about.
Sure.
So it's called Little Nemo: Adventures in Slumberland. So it's a Japanese movie.
I want to say I maybe saw that when I was a kid, but it depends on when it came out. Yeah,
it came out. Well, it came out in Japan in '89, and then it was released in the United States in '92.
Okay.
And about this kid who kind of gets sucked into his dreams, and it's a fun adventure. It's all I can say. I've seen it twice. The animation is really great. It's because it's Japanese animation, and Japanese animation is always beautiful. But yeah, it's just a fun adventure. I haven't seen it recently. I tried to rewatch it for the show, just didn't have time. But I couldn't tell you where you can find it streaming. It's on Amazon Prime. It's on Amazon Prime.
Oh, excellent. Excellent.
And Tubi. So if you have Tubi or Amazon Prime, you can check this out. It's just a fun animated adventure movie. All sorts of different characters. He goes to a parade to see a traveling circus, but he can't because his parents are too busy. And then he, later in the movie, he promises his mom that he's not going to sleepwalk anymore, and breaks that promise because he wants some pie.
As you do.
Yeah, I mean, but his mom catches him, sends him back to his room, and then after he actually falls asleep, he's approached by figures from the circus parade, and that's when they go to Slumberland, and that's when the adventure starts. And I don't really want to say much about the movie because I feel like it is a very underrated animated movie. It's a fun adventure, and since it's on Amazon Prime and Tubi for free, which is a free subscription service, there's no excuse for people not to watch this unless you don't like Japanese animation, in which case I understand. But
that might be me, but I was going to make a bad joke about how with all the shows I've got going now, I don't get to visit Slumberland very much, if you know what I'm saying.
I hear you.
No, but that's cool, man. Yeah, if you're into that stuff, I'm down. I saw that. I looked it up on IMDb real quick. I guess it has an English dub with Mickey Rooney and a couple of mainstream actors. So I guess, but yeah, I'm like you. I prefer to watch stuff in the original language with the subtitles, hence the raid. My Blu-ray version, for whatever reason, only has the dub, so I was watching it on Vudu earlier this week, which has the original language with the subtitles, because I'd much rather watch that. But yeah, that's a cool pick. I may or may not have seen it. It looks and sounds familiar. Maybe I came across it at some point, but who knows? Maybe on cable back in the day.
Maybe.
But sweet. Sounds good. I'll just recommend one other action adventure movie. I'll recommend kind of a bonkers bad movie, but that's absolutely crazy. So I'm a fan of Canon Films, and I may talk about Canon Films a little bit later when we talk about documentaries. But it was a company back in the 80s that made kind of crazy low-budget movies. They made Masters of the Universe most famously, and they made Over the Top. Those are some of the more mainstream ones, but they also made the Lou Ferrigno Hercules films, things like that, ninja films. But I want to talk about Death Wish 3 real quick, because Death Wish 3 with Charles Bronson, it is so far removed from the original 2 Death Wish movies, where it's just him going around with a gun, punishing, being a vigilante, taking out the people who raped his wife or robbed him, murder people, whatever. It's just him taking on entire gangs in the streets with bazookas and machine guns and just going absolutely bonkers, like full on just old man with big guns and just taking out people left and right, drug gangs, you name it. Death Wish 3 completely goes off the deep end, but is super bonkers 80s action if you enjoy that sort of thing. And so I would recommend that. It's bad, but it's like bad great 80s action, if you know what I mean. Like, it's just so over the top and silly, especially from Canon Films. They just amp it up to 12 once they took over the franchise. The sequels are very much in tune because they're also Canon Films, where it's just Charles Bronson just being a maniac. But I highly recommend it if you want some just something out of the ordinary and something a lot of fun. Death Wish 3.
I haven't seen Death Wish 1 or 2, so I might have to marathon them sometime.
Well, watch Death Wish 1 and Death Wish 3 back to back, and you'll be like, these are part of the same franchise? Okay. Yeah, so there you go.
Yeah, I'll do one more. Yeah, this is kind of considered a bad movie, and I don't know why, because I absolutely love this movie. I think this movie is great, and that is 2008's Speed Racer. I think Speed Racer is fantastic. I think it's cheesy. I think just everything about it is just fun. I love John Goodman in the movie as Pops. Susan Sarandon is great. Christina Ricci as Trixie is fantastic. And Emile Hirsch. They're all like, I love this cast, and I think they're like, they know the movie they wanted to make. And they made that movie.
Maybe. I
love it.
Hey, to be fair, Jacob, I'll be fair. I have not seen it since I saw it in the theater in 2008. So to be fair, I have not watched this movie, and I can't believe it's been 14 years since this movie came out. That's kind of mind blowing. Same with like Dark Knight. If you think about it, it's been 14 years. But yeah, to be fair, I have not gone back to it. So I only have memories. I only have memories of what's his name, Matthew Fox, just brooding with his black suit on, in the background a lot, just kind of standing, with a frowny face on, on a lot, just kind of looking around. Yeah, I remember like some goofy house stuff with John Goodman and some silly stuff. Again, I'll be fair, I have not gone back to it, so I don't know how it holds up, or if it gets better. I've heard people reevaluate it like you and say it's fun. It's kind of bad, but it's kind of fun. So, I have to be fair. So maybe I need to rewatch on that one.
Yeah, it's got its fans for sure. I understand why people don't like it. I definitely understand that, but I personally think it's great. But then again, anything with John Goodman in it, I will give a chance. And he's great as Pops. So I think he's my favorite part of the movie.
Yeah, so I would like to see this movie. I know it's on Blu-ray. Is it on 4K yet? I wouldn't mind seeing this movie in 4K. I think it would look pretty great.
I think it would,
but I don't think it is yet. I don't think it is yet. It's only on Blu-ray. But yeah, maybe if it ever comes out on 4K, I'll give it another shot and pop it in, because I'm sure it would actually look very good. I know it's very, very colorful and very nice to look at.
Yeah, it is.
All right. Well, I'll go with you. You kind of started with a little animation a little bit, so I'll do an animation pick or two. So I feel like there's a '90s movie from that I feel like people sleep on how great it is. I'm a big fan of The Rescuers Down Under. Big fan. And I know these are, it's a mainstream Disney film. I understand, Steven. Yeah, these movies came out. I know, made money. But I feel like when people talk about best 90s animation, they tend to lean towards like, the stuff like the, Beauty and the Beast and Lion King and Little Mermaid and some of the Pixar stuff that came later. And we kind of jump stuff like The Rescuers Down Under. And I feel like it's worth a rewatch for people who haven't gone back to it. I think the animation's incredible. There's an opening scene where they're zooming in on the house across the plains. It looks great. A lot of the flying sequences with the eagle look amazing. George C. Scott as McLeach is awesome. He's a villain, a Disney villain, doesn't get talked about enough for his performance, and he's great. I just think the story is really, really solid. The movie flies by, and you get a great John Candy performance. As Wilbur, the albatross, like he's great. So, if you want to hear some John Candy in an animation movie, so I just think it's worth a rewatch for some people. If you haven't gone back to The Rescuers Down Under, it's one of my two picks. I think it's great.
Yeah, I mean, you go Little Mermaid, you go Rescuers Down Under, Beauty and the Beast, Aladdin, and the Lion King, and it's like,
I feel like it gets lost in the shuffle. Why does it not get talked about? It gets forgotten about and like jumped over, and it's technically a sequel to The Rescuers, obviously from the '80s, but I just think it's a great movie, and just not enough people talk about it. I've been a big fan of this ever since I was a little kid, and I don't see it brought up in lists and things a lot. That's the only reason I bring it up. I just feel like it gets lost in that Disney Renaissance shuffle. You know what I mean? That's all.
Yeah, I mean, we got some love for it here. Rescuers Down Under.
Yeah, it's great.
Yeah. I don't know if I call it the best, but I mean, it was the first Disney animated movie to get a sequel in theaters. So everything else was, straight to, later on it was just all straight to DVD, and like they were like, no, this one can go to theaters, and it is great. I love it too. I think it was unfairly placed between some heavy hitters, though.
Yeah. And I'll get my other pick out there real quick, and then we'll bounce back to you, just because it's also like a 90s animated movie that I grew up with a lot, and that's another sequel. But I adore also Fievel Goes West from the American Tail series. Fievel Goes West is so underrated and so much fun as well. I mean, yeah, for God's sakes, you have, I believe it's Jimmy Stewart's last role, period, in a movie as the sheriff, the hound dog, sheriff. Like, it's one of his last movies. His final speech, actually, where he's literally walking off into the sunset, is kind of appropriate for his career when you go back to it as well. It's this whole thing about, stepping aside, leaving things behind and kind of moving on, with your life, things like that, because he kind of turns in his badge and moves on, and it's kind of appropriate to his career. But I think there's some really funny stuff. Dom DeLuise is again really funny as the cat. I'm blanking on his name right now, but he's really good. All the voice acting is always solid, and again, really great animation. Like for the time, 90s animation, the hand drawn stuff still holds up and still looks amazing. But yeah, Fievel Goes West is a old favorite of mine, but I think it still really, really works.
Yeah, no, it's solid. Great pick. Yeah, I guess we're bringing up Steven's childhood here.
Yeah, check it out. I if you haven't gone back to it, it's another one where if we did an episode of like animated sequels, like I think Fievel Goes West and Rescuers Down Under are like two of the better ones out there, easily, like two of the more high qualities.
There's a tier ranker idea, Jordan. Write it down.
Well, we'd have to include like all this straight to DVD garbage, some Return to Neverland and some of those weird, goofy ones. I
think there's been enough theatrically released too to for at least a solid top 10. I mean, I think you would just to round out the list and have enough options, but I think there's enough. That can be a discussion. I'll go from one John Cleese movie to another.
Oh right, yeah, John Cleese is good.
And apparently, I just think 2008 movies that aren't The Dark Knight are underrated because I'm going to go with Igor, the John Cusack movie, who voices Igor, and he plays the assistant to a mad scientist who. Igors aren't allowed to invent stuff. They're not allowed, but Igor is really smart, and he wants to break that. And I think it's another fun movie. I think the voice cast is all fantastic. It's got John Cusack, Steve Buscemi, Jay Leno, Sean Hayes, Arsenio Hall, John Cleese, Molly Shannon, Christian Slater, Jennifer Coolidge. It's got some pretty solid voice casts. It's it's 90 minutes, and I think it's fun. I'm sorry, I'm reading the comments. Apparently, there's a there we go. It's gone now. Anyway, yeah, there was we're being taken over by Russian spies, apparently.
Oh, sweet. We're starting to make it, Jacob. That means we're making it. We're starting to take over by Russian cam bots. Yeah, that means we're doing a good job. It means we're making a splash.
Yeah, but yeah, Igor. I think Igor is really good. It's got a 39% on Rotten Tomatoes, and I'm not saying it's one of the best animated movies, but I don't think it's a rotten movie by any standards. I think it's a fairly passable movie, and I think it succeeds in the movie it's trying to be, and that's just it's the message of, this is what society tells you are, but this is what I want to be, and I'm going to do whatever I can to follow my dreams and make them a reality. And I think it's a little forgotten about.
I guess it is, because I haven't even heard of this movie, but I was looking it up on IMDb as you were talking about it. But it's on HBO Max, so people want to check it out. So that's cool. So it's available. I vaguely remember this poster, but yeah, I don't remember much about it. Maybe it just got lost in the shuffle that year or something and came out, and just kind of got lost. But that sounds interesting. Yeah, that's cool though. Looks like kind of a evil scientist meets a little Hunchback of Notre Dame kind of stuff, maybe meets Despicable Me kind of. I don't know. That's what it kind of looks like. So, yeah.
And one that I feel is forgotten about, even though it's only 8 years old. It was nominated for Best Animated Film at both the Academy Awards and the Golden Globes, and that's The Box Trolls. I feel like I feel like it came and went, and people aren't talking about it when they talk about stop motion. You still got your Chicken Run, you got Nightmare Before Christmas and all those, but I think Box Trolls deserves to be at least mentioned when it comes to the stop motion. It's from Leica, who did Coraline and Paranorman, and that's kind of also
I almost wrote Paranorman because that was one of the last ones I really was kind of over the moon for, was Paranorman, just because it had a lot of like nods to like old school Hammer horror films and things like that, which was cool. Where he's like watching fake movies at the beginning, these like black and white movies, and there's a lot of nods to like old school horror. So that was one I was like, but I like that style of animation. It's always unique and really fun, like you said, with the Box Trolls.
Yeah, it's a fun movie that's about these box trolls who raise an orphan boy, and it's a good voice cast, although there's not a lot of talking in it, but I mean there's enough. Ben Kingsley's in this movie. Nick Frost is one of the voices. Nick Frost and Simon Pegg are two of the voices in this movie. So if that doesn't sell you, I don't know what will.
Yeah, well, I see some good voice actors. Actually, again, what I talk about, giving some of these famous kind of character voice actors roles instead of just loading it with just A-list people, because they've got Steve Blum and D. Bradley Baker and Fred Tascatore. Like those guys all do like a lot of cartoons and are pretty famous in the voice acting community. So I always appreciate that, when those guys are giving good roles in fairly mainstream movies. So I can always appreciate that.
Yeah, and again, this is one that I wanted to rewatch it for the show, but there's just there's a lot of content out there to watch, and sometimes you just don't get to everything. But I might put it on once we're done here, because I do want to watch it again. I think it's great.
Nice.
I think stop motion animation, period, is just underrated, and I wish there was some more of it. I understand that it can take a while to make, because it is. Stop motion, you're actually making the things, but it's a great animation style, and I think this is one of the better ones that doesn't get talked about enough. So Box Trolls.
All right, nice. Shall we go to maybe some biopics maybe next?
Yeah, let's do it. Let's go to the biopics.
Biopics. All right, I've got a couple I can talk about. I'll talk about a Tom Hardy gem from 2008. Maybe we'll get a lot of 2008 representation on here. I'm a big fan of a movie that put him on my radar even before stuff like Inception. It's a movie called Bronson, and Bronson is a really gritty, fun, and it takes a lot from movies like A Clockwork Orange. It's got a very Clockwork Orange kind of vibe to it, sort of a Kubrickian vibe. But it's Tom Hardy playing. He plays Britain's most notorious prisoner, Charlie Bronson, and he renames himself after Charles Bronson, who I was just talking about with Death Wish 3. But he kind of he shaves his head. He's got this big mustache, a very hard, kind of Cockney accent. But it's basically about this guy who is so bad and is so violent that he gets moved to basically every prison you can have in Britain. Nobody wants him. He stays in each prison for like, a week, 2 weeks, a month, and then they don't want anything to do with him anymore and just want him out of the picture. So it's him going from prison to prison to prison and eventually to a mental institution where they just don't know what to do with him. So they sent him to a mental hospital and try to just drug him up for a while. But it's really interesting. Tom Hardy is excellent. And like I said, it's got a very cool visual style. I believe it was directed by Nicholas Winding Refn, who did Drive, and what were we thinking of? The one after that with Ryan Gosling. You want to fight? I can't remember that name.
Right.
Only God Forgives. Only God Forgives. So it's got a great visual style. It's really well directed. I definitely encourage. It's a nice underseen movie. It's called Bronson. Check it out.
Yeah, that's one that's been on my radar. I haven't gotten around to it yet. Tom Hardy is enough to get me interested in just about anything.
Oh yeah, so he's excellent. And I've been trying to look these up to see if some of these are free to stream anywhere. But I'll get back to you on that because it didn't give me my usual thing. So anyways. You go ahead with your
pick. It looks like it's on Amazon Prime, so I will be checking this
out.
out.
It's on Amazon Prime and Tubi, so it sounds good. Yeah, it is excellent.
We're not sponsored by Tubi, by the way, guys.
Tubi is a good little streaming service. If you haven't checked out Tubi, they had all it is it's a lot of free stuff. They have like an ad break every 15 minutes or so for about a minute, and then it gets back into the movie. It's not bad, and it's completely free. So I like Tubi.
Yeah, I think they have like an original animated show with John Goodman and Tiffany Haddish and I think 2 other people. It's like the Freak Brothers or something like that. And I've been meaning to check it out, but I just haven't.
Tubi has a ton of horror movies, so I appreciate that. Like they have a ton of like 80s and 90s horror. So if you're a horror fan, check out Tubi. But yeah, it's a good little service. So do you have a biopic pick, sir?
Yeah, I have a couple, and the first one I might get some flack for because it's not underrated or a hidden gem, but I feel like
it's okay.
It came and went, and even though it was just 4 years ago, it's like okay, and that's Bohemian Rhapsody. I feel like it came and went, and not. I mean, technically, if we want to get technical with the term underrated. I mean, according to Rotten Tomatoes, I believe it was like a 60%.
Well, and I think that movie has had a weird backlash in the last couple of years. Like the people who do talk about it, like the full like Rami Malek winning the Best Actor Oscar, and just people kind of being like, oh, it's just not very good. And it's whatever. Queen deserved better. But I thought it was all right. I had a fun time with it overall.
I really enjoyed it. I thought, and I think the Live Aid scene is spectacular. I think everything about it, I think they captured that really well. I loved all the music in it. I think Rami Malek does give a great performance, and I think he deserved his Oscar. It's weird that I'm talking about this when we're talking about underrated movies, and I'm sure there's so many other biopics out there that could be mentioned. And I do have one more, but I did want to bring this up because I think it's being treated unfairly. I mean, it was nominated for Best Picture. It won an Academy Award for, I believe, sound. I think it was
something
one of the
like
sounds,
that, yeah.
Like sound mixing or sound editing. I don't know. I think they just combined them now, but yeah, I feel like it was a movie that came and went. It had its moment, and now people are like, okay, we're done with that.
Right.
I think it's really good, and I find it rewatchable. And if I want to watch a biopic, like that's going to be one of the first ones that comes to my mind. At least I don't know about anyone else, but yeah, no, I think it's great. and it doesn't deserve to be treated unfairly or forgotten about because it. Yeah. So yeah, that's my first pick.
Okay. All right. Well, I've got 3, so I'll knock out my other 2 real quick, and then we'll come back to you for your other one. But I'll make them fast. There's a movie came out, I believe, about 2 years ago. It was a Laurel and Hardy biopic called Stan and Ollie.
That's my pick.
Oh, is that your pick? Oh, cool. We have a crossover. Fantastic. We can talk about it real quick. Well, actually, okay. We'll hold up on Stan and Ollie for just a second, and we'll come back and talk about it then. So we'll talk about Stan and Ollie in a second. I just want to also bring up Howard Stern's Private Parts. I think it's kind of a movie that gets forgotten about from the 90s. That's really, really entertaining and super fun. Even if you're not a huge Howard Stern fan, which I'm just kind of a casual Howard Stern fan. But I think the movie itself, it moves very quickly. It's very funny. Paul Giamatti as Pig Vomit, the program director that Howard has to deal with, is so great. It's just so many of these scenes where, he'll just come on after they do something crazy, and give him a little talk, now Howard, now, we can't be doing things like that, Howard. We need you to say the call letters, right? WNBC, and it's, Howard started mocking him, WNBC, it's really great stuff. It's obviously Howard Stern playing himself, but I think he does a really good job. He's really, really solid. Of course, a few of the things are a little bit exaggerated here and there, not all 100% accurate, but it's pretty close. I just think it's kind of been a nice forgotten gem of the late 90s from 1998. So Howard Stern Private Parts, really, really fun movie.
Yeah, I'll have to check that out. It's not one that I
believe
hear
it's
about very
on
often.
HBO Max, I believe. Yeah, so you can check it. It's really, really good. Really, really good. Really, a lot of fun. It breezes by. It's like 90 minutes, 95 minutes. Really quick watch. A lot of fun. So yeah. But yeah, we'll both talk about Stan and Ollie because I love Stan and Ollie. Great
this movie was so great. I didn't know much about Laurel and Hardy going into the movie.
Mm-hmm.
I knew who they were. I feel like most people know who they are. But I actually I heard about this movie. Somebody was talking about it and saying how great Steve Coogan and John C. Reilly were. So I was like, okay, because I do think John C. Reilly is an underrated actor. I think people know him for his comedy, but when he can do a serious role, he knocks it out of the park.
People forget that a lot of his 90s movies before he was really a big mainstream star, a lot of them were dramas. I mean, you look at stuff, he was in Paul Thomas Anderson movies. He was in Boogie Nights and Magnolia, and he's great in both those movies. He's in Gangs of New York, the Scorsese movie, playing all these side parts. He was like a legit, it was almost like a Leslie Nielsen type thing, right? Like where Leslie Nielsen started out as this dramatic actor, doing science fiction films and drama films, and then kind of became, once Naked Gun and Airplane and all those hit, it became more of like a comedic actor, that's what people kind of knew him for from then on. And I feel like, John C. Reilly's had kind of a similar path where he's done these really great movies, but he was just kind of a character actor. And then once he blew up with Will Ferrell and all that, people kind of associate him with that. But yeah, this is him. He's still being funny because obviously they're playing Laurel and Hardy. He's playing Oliver Hardy. So I mean, they do recreate a lot of their famous bits throughout the movie and a lot of their stage work and things like that, which is a lot of fun. They're spot on. I thought Steve Coogan, especially as Stan Laurel, was great. Like he's incredible. Like both those guys are great. But yeah, I was more of a Three Stooges guy overall. Those are kind of my comedy troupe growing up, at least from that era. But I still like Laurel and Hardy a lot. And but this movie is really, really solid. And it's one of those biopics, Jacob, that I like where it doesn't chronicle their entire history and more focuses on a chunk of time. It's just this tour they did overseas near kind of the end of their careers, but with a few flashbacks here and there, but it kind of hones in on just these characters and this little chunk of time, sort of like Lincoln. If you remember, Lincoln was just during those couple of weeks where they were doing the stuff with trying to get the bills passed, things like that. It wasn't like in a complete biopic, which I appreciate. They're not trying to cram in everything in 90 minutes, it's just kind of focusing on these characters and you get the idea of their history.
Yeah, I really enjoyed that aspect of the movie. I think both performances are great. Even the wives are really good. Yeah, and then it is. The bits are funny. It made me want to go back and watch more Laurel and Hardy and see their bits. Yeah, if you want to check it out, this one is also on Amazon
Stars,
Prime, and it's on
Stars.
Amazon. It's on Hulu, Stars. So Yeah, it's worth the watch. Definitely, it's definitely by those who have seen it. It's not underrated because it's got a 92% on Rotten
But again, it's one of
Tomatoes.
those movies that kind of came and went. I had to seek it out when I was hearing about it, and I caught it in theaters. But it was only at this, like, I live near Asheville, North Carolina. It was at like one theater for like 2 weeks. I had to go catch it. You know what I mean? It was kind of in and out of theaters, limited release. Didn't get a big mainstream push. But yeah, it's available on all that. You know, it's available for rental everywhere, digital, all that kind of stuff. So yeah, I would highly encourage Stan and Ollie. It's a lot of fun. Really, really
I feel
good.
like this definitely fits the bill of a hidden gem.
Oh yeah, definitely. I'm glad we had a crossover. Nice.
Yeah.
Nice. I love Stan.
I wasn't sure if we would or not.
So, there you go. All right.
Shall
we go to just keep going? I've got all mine pretty much in alphabetical order.
Me too. So we might as well just keep going into the comedies.
Okay, comedy sounds good. So why don't you go first? I think I went first last time, so you go first. So, I've got 3 quick ones. I won't spend a lot of time on each one, but 3 very quick ones.
Yeah, I've got 2, and the first one is I'm a huge Weird Al fan, and so I went with UHF about Weird Al taking over a TV station, and then he comes up with these crazy ideas, and they're all really fun. And then the TV station is going to be taken away from him, so they put on a telethon to save it, and it's funny. It's got Weird Al written all over it. Just kind of like this is what I envision a Weird Al album is like on the screen, like this
in real life.
Real life, this is it. And just some of the ideas he comes up with. I think are funny and fantastic. So yeah, no, UHF. I don't know if it's streaming anywhere, but if it is, check it out.
I believe that one's free
Amazon Prime.
Free on, Prime. I think it's like free on YouTube. Even like I think it's last time we saw it when we were doing it for our tier raker, I think it was free on a couple of Tubi, maybe a couple of those free ones.
Okay,
it's out there pretty easily. Yeah, I saw it a lot of places. So sounds good. UHF, good pick.
I love it. I looked it up, and they have it listed as a sci-fi comedy.
Oh, well, there's a couple of sci-fi parodies in there, but yeah, okay. No, fair enough. I went with one of mine, the Justin Long, Jonah Hill movie, Accepted from 2006, which I feel like not a lot of people talk about. Kind of got lost in that shuffle of 2000. Again, 2000s comedies, when you don't think it, when you lay it out, especially on our tier raker, it was a loaded decade for comedies. There was a ton of great stuff. And I think Accepted is one of the ones that kind of got lost in the shuffle a little bit. But it's really good. It's Justin Long. If you don't know the premise, setting up a fake college, that he gets accepted to, and him and his buddies like they're renting out this like old mental hospital kind of a thing, kind of putting on a facade, but then they accidentally make the website functional to where all these people get accepted to it, and of course they have to kind of pretend like it's a real school, and hijinks ensue, as they say. But it's a lot of fun. Lewis Black is in this movie. It's one of Jonah Hill's kind of early ones before he broke out with Superbad. It was like that and Grandma's Boy, a couple of those ones he showed up in, around that time, when he was still like really, really nerdy, like with the glasses and stuff. But really good. A lot of character actors kind of pop up. Just a really fun kind of college hijinks comedy, a breezy watch, very entertaining.
The South Harmon Institute of Technology.
Yeah, and they make their school color brown, if you can get the reference. So yes, South Harmon Institute of Technology. Yes. All right, so that's one of my picks.
Yeah, my second pick is a movie. It's definitely a dramedy, but the comedy definitely hits, and it's called Prince Avalanche. Came out.
Never heard of this one.
Came out in 2013. It's got Paul Rudd and Emile Hirsch, and it's set in the 80s, the late 80s, and Paul Rudd is dating Emile Hirsch's sister, so he helps him get a job with him as part of this road crew. They're painting stripes on a road, and it's just the two of them, and they carry this entire movie. It's just the two of them, with the exception of a truck driver and another woman. We hear a voice later in the movie, but that's it. Like, it's just these two like acting off each other, and so like they're camping out. Paul Rudd gives a fantastic performance. Like, this movie is on HBO Max. It's where I found it. And I was like, okay,
I recognized the poster when I brought it. I definitely scrolled past it a few times with him and his mustache. Yes,
I've
scrolled past it a few times. Yeah.
Yeah. But like I feel like there were some parts in this movie where they weren't trying to be funny. But yes, it is a David Gordon Green movie.
Yeah, David Gordon Green, the most recent 2 Halloween films, whether that's a positive or a negative in your light, that's a positive of mine because I love those movies.
Definitely positive for me.
But that could be a negative for you. But yeah, David Gordon Green. So there you go. But yeah, but I mean, him and he also did that movie Joe, which is really good with Nick Cage. So if you're a fan of that one.
Yeah, Prince Avalanche. Just the back and forth between Paul Rudd and Emile Hirsch was fantastic. This movie starts off silent for like the first 5 or 6 minutes, and like it's just some really good filmmaking, I think. Yeah, the dialogue's fantastic. Some of the stories that they tell are really fun. It's about 90 minutes, so it's a quick watch, and it's an easy watch. And yeah, I don't think I didn't hear about it until this year. I found it on HBO Max, and so I decided to turn it on, and I was glad I did because it was over. Like it's a quick 90 minutes, and really really solid. Great screenplay.
My other 2 I'll talk about them very quickly. One we talked about a lot when it came up on tournament fights for one day that everybody kind of loves. Rat Race, I think, doesn't get talked about enough. Really, really funny. Super funny movie from 2001. Kind of a modern take on It's a Mad, 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 Mad World, where it's all these people chasing down $2 million in a locker in New Mexico, and John Cleese is kind of the guy that orchestrates it. All of his rich buddies are betting on the different racers. Tons of cast. I mean, Rowan Atkinson, Seth Green, Whoopi Goldberg, like I said, John Cleese, Kathy Bates shows up, Wayne Knight. The list goes on and on. Cuba Gooding Jr. Tons and tons of people in this movie. But all really fun, all having a blast. John Lovitz is great, but really fun, just kind of road movie, frantic, entertaining, especially once the race gets going. It's an absolute blast and a ton of funny bits. So, yeah. Did I win? I'm winning. I'm winning.
No, he's I had this on my list. So I was like, maybe Austin's going to bring that one up. So
yeah,
I'll switch in and get something else to talk about.
Yeah, we would have another crossover. Rat Race is great. Yeah, I just feel like it doesn't get enough praise, and also a parody movie that doesn't get a lot of love because it got kind of lost in the shuffle around the early 90s, late 80s. National Lampoon's Loaded Weapon 1 is really, really funny. Kind of got lost in the shuffle of the Hot Shots movies and the Naked Gun movies, but it's basically a parody of buddy cop movies, basically Lethal Weapon parody, but it's Emilio Estevez and Sam Jackson back in 93 before he was super famous, and a ton of great character actors pop up, and it's just a parody movie in the vein of Naked Gun, just a ton of silly visual gags and absurd stuff with them playing it straight. So if you haven't seen Loaded Weapon 1, I would highly recommend that one as well.
I have not, so I will have to check it out. Yeah, moving down the list, we're going to go into the comic book movies.
Okay.
And I decided to go animated again because I feel like it came out in a time when Disney was doing big things again, like they kind of had a push, and this one has kind of been forgotten about, and that's Big Hero 6. I also think people don't remember it. Like, this is a Marvel property.
Yeah, well, we had it in our tournament fights where we did non-universe kind of comic movies. We had it on there because it definitely counts. It's definitely based on a comic or a graphic novel, and it for sure counts. It's a Marvel property under that Marvel wing. It's just not an MCU type movie, things like that. But yeah,
and this one, it's definitely not underrated. I feel like it's properly rated. It's not a hidden gem. People know about this movie. It's in that vein where people aren't talking about this one anymore. When they talk about 2010s Disney, they're talking, or even 2010s comic book movies. It's all about the MCU or the DCEU, and with Disney, it's Frozen and Tangled and movies like that, or Pixar. And so this one just kind of gets lost in the shuffle. But I think it's great. I think Baymax is a great character. The emotion is there in the beginning when the brother is dies in the building. And then the villain, maybe people see the villain coming, the twist Yeah, sure, that's fine. It's still a really solid movie. The voice cast.
I
is
like the little
fantastic.
world they set up with the San Francisco takeoff. What's it called in the movie? It's like
San Fran Tokyo,
yeah,
or
it's
something like that.
San Fran Tokyo. Yeah, it's like the mashup of like San Francisco and Tokyo. Yeah, I like that world they set up in that. That's always fascinating when you can set up like a nice, cool world to explore. And all the different things with that. I thought that stuff was fun.
Yeah, and I think it's really solid. I'm glad I'm pretty sure there's a new series coming to Disney Plus, so I'll be checking that out. I think all these characters are great. I think the voice cast is great. And there's just a lot of ways you can go with this. Yeah, sorry, Jordan, for spoiling a 8-year-old movie for you.
Yeah, right. Oh well, what can you do?
Yeah.
I didn't remember anybody died. Spoiler for me, I guess. I haven't seen it since the theater, so maybe it's one I need to go back to as well. But yeah. All right. It's on my top 64. I talk about it all the time. People are sick of me talking about the Phantom, but I fucking love the Phantom. look, I think the Phantom was definitely underrated because it was definitely misrepresented when it came out. It was misunderstood. It got lost in a 1996 year. I think the people who have gone back and watched this movie and kind of appreciate what it is, do like it. I think this movie has been reevaluated by a small kind of cult following. But I think for those who take it as what it is, which is a kind of send up of those old serials, those old 1930s kind of adventure films, I love the Phantom. Sorry, Jordan, I'm going to talk about it because any chance I get to talk about the Phantom, I'm going to talk about the Phantom, and it fits. So yeah, people who see it as an old-fashioned adventure film, in the vein of like what Indiana Jones was a takeoff of those old serials, things like that. It's got a little bit of that, some treasure hunting, an over-the-top silly villain, a guy that is comic accurate. Billy Zane dresses in the purple spandex and the purple outfit. They didn't update it. They just went with what it is. But it has really good old-fashioned, just fun. It's silly, but like I think everybody who's in this movie knows what movie they're in, and they know what they're going for with the kind of over the top performances and the big dialogue. Like they know exactly what they're doing. So I think if you can see through that and know that they know what they're doing and they know what kind of movie they're making, I think the Phantom deserves a rewatch for some people. If you just kind of brush it off as the Billy Zane in a purple suit movie, I think it's super super fun.
This is what I've heard you talk highly about, and it's on Showtime, but I haven't sprung for Showtime yet. But
I mean, I have the Blu-ray because, of course, I do. but I bought it on all the different physical media. But that's me because I'm a super fan. So what are you gonna do?
Yeah, I mean, you got some.
I look. I have a pic. I have a picture with Billy Zane wearing my Phantom shirt. I mean, it doesn't get more of a fan than that from a Comic-Con I did in Knoxville. Like I have a signed 8x10 of Billy Zane as the Phantom, and Billy Zane loves the Phantom. And there's even been recent articles where he wants to do a sequel. It's perfect for a sequel. It's right for a sequel. I don't think it'll happen, but the way the mythology of the Phantom is set up of passing from father to son, he could easily be the older Phantom, passing it on to somebody else. The older dad Phantom. So, but I love this movie. I know I talk about it a lot. Sorry, that'll be the last time on this episode I talk about it. Or will it? No, I'm kidding. Of course, it'll be the last time I talk about it. Yeah, anytime I get a chance to, I'm going to.
Right. So, I'm gonna stick with 2014. Big Hero 6 came out 2014. The Amazing Spider-Man 2 also came out in 2014. And yeah, I don't get why people don't like this movie. Like some people, like I feel like now after No Way Home, people are starting to come around.
People are starting to reevaluate Andrew Garfield, and I'll tell you what, when this movie originally came out, I did movie reviews online with a friend of mine, Dagan Briggs, and I think I don't know if we were over the moon about it, but I know we were doing stuff out of 5. I'm pretty sure we gave it like a 3.5 out of 5. We still had fun with it. You know what I mean? Like there was stuff that definitely didn't work. I thought Jamie Foxx until he becomes Electro didn't really work. Like he was a little too over the top with that goofy nerd shit that he does in that movie. Like it was a little too cartoony. A couple of wonky things, but I think that movie is still really entertaining. And yeah, Andy Garfield is still one of my favorite Spider-Mans. Like he's great. Like, and people are maybe reevaluating him now, but like y'all were on the hate train back in the day. I wasn't. I was all about some Andrew Garfield back in the day. So yeah.
Him and Emma Stone had amazing chemistry. I love the character of Gwen Stacy in these movies. I was in the camp of, I think Andrew Garfield played Peter Parker a little too cool at times. But
I just like his Spider-Man. I like his shit talking Spider-Man. I just think he was really cool and suave as Spider-Man and talk stuff and backed it up. You know what I mean? Like, I like that aspect of his because there's a lot of comics where he does that, and I think he nailed that part of it. Like, I thought he was a great Spider-Man. Yeah, whether or not you like his Peter Parker or not, that you can have a conversation about that. But I thought he was a great Spider-Man. I thought he was great.
Yeah, great Spider-Man. I thought all the action scenes were incredible. I think his final fight with Electro is like one of the best. I love it. I could watch that scene alone.
And like, what happens with Emma Stone is if you don't have a tear in your eye, like the way it's staged, like if it doesn't get a little dusty in the room, you know, like with what happens with Emma Stone at the end of that movie, like you don't have a heart. Like that is a heartbreaking moment. And the way they kind of he sort of fully gets his redemption, but you know the way they call back to it, and his acting in that scene in No Way Home, you know what we're talking about if we do, but like it's great. Like the way they call back to it was excellent. So it's kind of a little bit of redemption.
Yeah, you bring that up, and when you had mentioned that they were making callbacks to the movies, I thought when Tobey Maguire's Peter Parker was like doing this with his back, I thought like they were making jokes at Andrew Garfield not being able to catch Gwen.
Oh god!
and then I was like, are they really going there? And then later on, he catches MJ. I'm like, oh okay. There's the redemption.
Yeah. Right. I think we could say what happens in No Way Home because that movie made like almost $2 billion. I'm pretty sure everybody saw it at this point. Know, it's like based on that box office, I think everybody saw it twice. So yeah.
Yeah, but I'm looking at Rotten Tomatoes right now, and the audience score on this movie is a 64, with an average rating of 3.6. So the fans that like it, it, but. And I want to throw this up real quick. Jordan, who said Andrew Garfield's one of the best actors working today. I absolutely agree. Of course. I think he was fantastic. Go look at
The Social Network. He's great. There was that recent movie, I'm forgetting the title, where it's like a real estate movie or something. He's really good in. I'm blanking on the title, but Garfield's great. Like every time he shows up, he's awesome. He's got such a cool, suave demeanor. Yeah, I fell in love with him between the Spider-Man and The Social Network. I just think he was awesome. Yeah. And I think he's always good.
Yeah, I'll throw out Hacksaw Ridge. He's fantastic. And Tick Tick
Boom.
Yeah,
that's right.
Tick Tick Boom. I didn't know he could sing. And man, can he sing? So I don't know if you'll watch it because it's a musical, but he does give a really great performance in it.
Maybe.
I dare say, like, acting wise,
I watched as a goof. It's still a musical. As a goof, I watched the 2019 Cats the other day because I just had to see how bad it was. So I did technically watch a musical in the last week. But I was laughing a lot, but I watched it.
I'll say, taking out all like the musical stuff and the musical numbers in the movie, I think this is like Tick Tick Boom is one of his best performances. I'd put it top 3 with Social Network and Hacksaw Ridge. Just like he displays such good emotion and just everything. Yeah, but we're not talking about Tick Tick Boom. We're talking about The Amazing Spider-Man 2, and it's a great movie. And shame on all of you for not liking it until now.
Everybody's pretending like you liked it back in the day. You didn't say that back in the day. Bunch of haters. Anyways, the only other one I'll quickly mention is Darkman with Liam Neeson. Darkman is a lot of fun. Yes. It's a Sam Raimi movie. So of course Bruce Campbell has a cameo at the end of it. But yeah, it's Liam Neeson. Basically has this accident where he can't feel any pain, essentially. So of course, naturally, he becomes like a superhero, basically, and kind of covers his face and gets really messed up in this lab accident. But it's just a really pulpy, fun, not super dark, but it has its dark moments. But you can tell it's a Sam Raimi movie. If you want to see, he reuses a few things in this one in his Spider-Man movie. Some of the camera techniques and things he brings over from Evil Dead and stuff. So yeah, just a fun little comic book movie that gets kind of, again, lost in the shuffle of the 90s stuff. 90s was a weird decade for comic book films and superhero films, but then again, there was a lot of really unique films that don't get made anymore, essentially. So if you want to go back and see some unique stuff like The Phantom, like Darkman, like The Shadow, like The Rocketeer, there's a lot of stuff that types of movies that don't get made anymore. So it was a good decade in that aspect. Just really unique movies. Darkman's one of them.
Darkman is great. I just watched that for the first time last year, and really solid. Liam Neeson's great. And shout out to The Rocketeer. I feel like that doesn't get mentioned enough either.
I rewatched it recently. It's still fun. I thought it was a little long, but other than that, it was still fun. It felt long, but that was just me. I just felt like it dragged a little bit, but really good stuff. I really liked when the mob guys turned on Timothy Dalton at the end, just because it's like, man, we ain't no Nazis. We all American. We're bad dudes, but we're American. I like that little turn. It was fun. I forgot about that. Paul Sorvino from Goodfellas. Yeah, good stuff.
And it's high praise for Darkman right there, considering the movie Sam.
Hey, he's made some good ones. Darkman's good.
All right. Well,
where do you want to go next, sir? I'll let you pick. Where do you want to go next?
I think we just keep going down the list. Let's go to some crime movies.
Crime. All right.
Some crime. And this is a pick I feel I'm very much in the minority on. I feel like I'm going to be the only one saying I really like this movie because it's got a 7% on Rotten Tomatoes.
Oh, boy.
That's the Ben Affleck, Justin Timberlake movie, Runner.
Okay. I haven't seen it, so I can't comment. But, I heard about it.
It's Ben Affleck and Justin Timberlake. Justin Timberlake plays a college student going to Princeton, and he is trying to make money to pay tuition. And so he plays poker on this online site, but he gets cheated out of his money. And so he finds Ben Affleck's character, Ivan Block, in Costa Rica and confronts him. And Ben, he appreciates that. So what does he do? He offers him a job. And so Justin Timberlake ends up staying in Costa Rica and just making a ton of money working for this guy. And then about a half an hour into the movie, he gets kidnapped by the FBI. Agent Shavers, played by Anthony Mackie. And he wants him to work with him. Justin Timberlake's not having it. But he finds out that, Ivan Black's not a good guy. So this is one for me that it's so bad that it's kind of good. So I don't think it's 7% bad, because that's like calling it awful.
Right.
I'm not gonna say it is a good movie, because I do think some of the camera work in this movie and some of the
I recommended Death Wish 3, which has 11% on Rotten Tomatoes. So you know what? I can recommend bad movies if they're fun. You know what I mean? If they're a good time, if they're entertaining, I can recommend a bad movie.
Yeah, and I think this I think mainly the reason I think I enjoy this movie is the back and forth between Ben Affleck and Justin Timberlake, because I think Ben Affleck is a great actor, and I think Justin Timberlake can be a good actor. I think he's shown that. So the back and forth between them throughout the movie is good. And then Anthony Mackie, I don't know what it is about his performance. I don't know if he just took his character a different way than the rest of the movie, but it's pretty fun to watch.
He has to be better in this than the movie I watched, Crossover.
Oh, he is definitely.
Okay. It can't be worse than that.
He is. No. So yeah, Runner. It's a decent crime movie, and it's another quick watch. It's about 90 minutes. So yeah, it's on HBO Max. Check it out. I don't know why. If you look it up, it says it's an hour and 49 minutes. When you look on HBO Max, it's got 91 minutes. So it's not an hour and 49 minutes. I don't.
Weird.
Google, get your stuff together.
All right. Sounds good. I'll go with the 1990 film movie that got lost in the shuffle in the midst of all the crime and mob movies at the time. I'll go with King of New York with Christopher Walken. It's a really gritty kind of a crazy drug kingpin sort of movie. It's back when Christopher Walken was still kind of taken seriously, before he kind of became almost like a parody of himself, basically in the late 90s, early 2000s. But when he could still be scary, like in this movie, like A True Romance, things like that. But King of New York is great. It's got him, David Caruso, Lawrence Fishburne, Wesley Snipes, Giancarlo Esposito, from Breaking Bad. Really good. It's directed by Abel Ferrara, who makes some really underrated movies. His Body Snatchers movie from early 90s is actually really underrated as well. But yeah, it's basically Christopher Walken's like this drug kingpin, and he kind of, it's a taking over the criminal underworld, taking out the other gangs, things kind of a movie. But it's a movie that just it gets kind of forgotten about in the early 90s. So I want to recommend King of New York. Yeah, it's a really, really, really solid watch. Good stuff.
Yeah, I feel like I've heard about this movie, just haven't watched it. So I'll definitely check it out, for sure. I have one more pick, and that's
it's on. It's also King of New York is also on Tubi and Pluto for free. So again, hey, they've got good movies. If you can stand a 15, a minute long ad break every 15 minutes, it's not as long as cable. So if you can take it, just go get a drink, go to the bathroom, come back. There you go. Good stuff.
Yeah, Tubi. I had to watch something for a Battleground match, and the only place I could find it was Tubi. So
there you go.
Yeah, it's definitely usable. Use Tubi. I don't know if this movie is on Tubi. It's Alpha Dog.
I love Alpha Dog.
Another Justin Timberlake movie. It's another
Anton
one.
Yelchin.
Anton Yelchin. Emile Hirsch again. Another Emile Hirsch movie. Ben Foster, Amanda Seyfried, and then this movie's fantastic. Bruce Willis. I love that. It almost feels documentary-esque at points, like with the interviews and stuff. And then when we talk about Justin Timberlake movies, I feel like this is his best performance. I really enjoy him in this movie. Anton Yelchin plays this kid. I didn't know who Anton Yelchin was until I saw this movie. I don't know if he had done anything before this. I was really late to this movie.
I think most people came to him with Star Trek pretty much, and then kind of went back and saw him in stuff like this, or recognized it was him in Terminator Salvation, things like that. But yeah, I think a lot of people didn't really take note of him until Star Trek. But yeah, he's been working for a while up until that point. Yeah,
like this, and he was in a movie called Charlie Bartlett. I don't know. Have you?
Yeah, I've heard of it.
Yeah, Charlie Bartlett. I thought was really good. But yeah, this movie, you really grow to like his character. Like you want to see him. I wanted to see him get free, and he doesn't, and it's just heartbreaking.
The ending is I don't want to spoil exactly what happens, but the ending is a gut punch. It's a real gut punch of an ending. Yeah, definitely. The first time I saw it.
I think my favorite part of this movie is when Ben Foster just decides to take the biggest crap on Emile Hirsch's floor. like, all right, nothing says beef. Like, I'm gonna
just taking a dump on your floor. Yeah. That's a point of no return. That's for damn sure. Even worse than insulting a man or even shooting at him. I think taking a dump on the floor is your point of no return. Yeah,
and that's another guy. Ben Foster, when he's in a movie, like he gives 110%. I feel like I've never seen a bad performance from him. Like I can't.
Yeah, good stuff.
Yeah. So yeah, Alpha Dog.
Excellent.
Great movie.
Yeah. The only other one I'll mention, it's not underrated per se, because it's very, very rated. Very, very well known to fans of classic film, but just because it's an older film that not a lot of modern audiences have seen, I'll mention Double Indemnity, which is a really good movie that holds up. It's a Billy Wilder film, really, really well written. Fred McMurray and Barbara Stanwyck basically they set up an insurance murder fraud, kind of a situation, getting like an insurance payout. But the problem is Fred McMurray's in the insurance business, and he's his investigator buddy Edward G. Robinson starts to figure things out, and they gotta kind of cover their tracks, and is on the trail. So, but it's really, really extremely well written. A lot of Billy Wilder stuff just really holds up and feels more modern, than a lot of those older movies. There's a lot of like stuff between Fred MacMurray and Barbara Stanwyck where they're like, there's a lot of sexual dialogue without being explicit. They had to kind of dance around things, with a lot of double entendres and a lot of, generalizations, but like, what they're talking about, but they can't say the explicit stuff, Billy Wilder had to get very creative, which is what makes it so sharp. But yeah, really, really good stuff. I would highly recommend it. It's one of the better film noirs, but it's also a murder kind of a fraud mystery sort of thing. So good stuff. Double Indemnity. If you haven't done it, watch it. I highly recommend it.
Yeah. I'll have to check it out. That's another one that's on Stars. So
yeah,
I did spring for Stars because there's quite a few great movies on there. So
all
yeah,
right.
no, that's one I'll put on my radar. It's funny, I got Stars because I was going to be on the next Oscars episode of Tournament Fights, which is the 18th, and then I found out, I won't be in town the 18th, so I cannot be on the episode, and now I'm springing for Stars, and I don't even need it, but it's got movies like this. I'll keep it.
A couple of my recommendations were on Stars, so you can go back and check those out. Yeah, cool, thanks. So we'll go. I guess if we're still going alphabetical order, we'll go to documentary.
Yeah, the docs.
Okay.
The docs. I only have one pick here. I don't.
I got a lot. A lot. I'll just mention quickly about each one. Just a quick, descriptions, and then I'll go. So why don't you go first, and then I'll rattle off a few because I love documentaries.
I could easily sit here and tell you about all of the WWE documentaries because I think a lot of those are fantastic. I feel like if you're a fan of the WWE, you've seen them. So if you're not going to enjoy them.
Beyond the Mat's still a good movie. Good documentary.
Beyond the Mat, it is. Yeah,
still really good.
Yeah. So the only one I have, and again, it's not underrated. I don't know if I would call this a hidden gem, but I think since it came out, people haven't talked about it since then, and we're going back to 2008, and it's Waltz with Bashir. It was nominated. It's an animated documentary. I think that's kind of what drew me to it, is that it was animated. I'm a big animated guy, as you know. So I'm just going to read this because I'm not going to do it justice by saying what I think it's about. So it says, Israeli filmmaker Ari Folman wrote, directed, and stars in this autobiographical animated film. As a 19-year-old infantry soldier in the 1982 war with Lebanon, Folman witnessed the Sabra and Shatila massacre, but realizes that he has no memory of the event. In 2006, he seeks out others who were in Beirut at the time to discuss their memories, including a psychologist specializing in post-traumatic stress disorders and the first journalist to cover the massacre. And yeah, no, it was fascinating to watch. It was nominated for Best Foreign Film because it is a foreign movie. I believe it's in French, maybe Hebrew. It's in Hebrew, not French. Why did I think French? I don't know. But yeah, it's in Hebrew. And yeah, like you, I think the best way to watch it is with subtitles. It's the best way to get like the emotion and everything. The animation style is unique too. Like I hadn't seen an animated movie like it when I watched it. So yeah, I mean, I feel like since 2008, nobody's really.
Oh yeah, no, I know the title, but nobody really talks about it, even though it was an Oscar favorite, things like that. So yeah, totally, that's a good pick. I have a couple. Because I like really entertaining documentaries, just ones that take you on a good ride, tell a really good story, have good payoff. So first one is a movie I've been a big fan of since I bought the physical DVD of it when it came out. It's a film called This Film Is Not Yet Rated, and it's about the MPAA and how they rate movies, essentially. So it's kind of a two-part documentary thing where part of the movie is the filmmakers hiring private detectives to track down and figure out who these people are on this MPAA ratings board, because it's a secret. They don't publish who's on there. It's just they don't know who the hell is rating these movies, watching these movies, giving these ratings, just trying to figure out that. And then the other part of the movie is kind of tracking the history of the MPAA. how they started coming up with ratings, and also interviewing a lot of filmmakers who have had battles with the MPAA over ratings, over trying to get things to an R rating, or, being given NC-17s for literally no reason when other movies do worse things than they do, but those movies have money behind them or a studio behind them, and they are able to get R ratings, things like that, and all those kind of controversies. So really good. A little hard to find, but it's actually on watchdocumentaries.com, and it's available for free on the website, so you can watch it. So yeah, I guess there's a website that streams different documentaries, so that's cool. I have a physical DVD, but yeah, anyways, this film is not yet rated. Really, really interesting. The other one I mentioned, it got a lot of buzz at the time, but I still want to recommend it, called Three Identical Strangers. It's a true story based on these brothers who didn't know they were brothers. One guy finds an identical twin brother, and then oddly enough, they find another identical twin brother. So they are triplets, and they all kind of, the story of them kind of coming together, becoming a big national phenomenon, and unfortunately, kind of kind of a slow, tragic demise of the family. But also, there's a crazy twist about what happened to them when they were born and why they were separated. So, and I won't get into that because it kind of goes into a conspiratorial almost, story about that. So, Three Identical Strangers is really good. There's a movie called Electric Boogaloo that talks about the history of canon films, which I talked about a little bit with Death Wish 3, and the story of this little studio that could, almost like a Blumhouse type of thing, they just had a little bit of money. They would crank out these small budget crazy movies, and some of them would end up being big hits. They would reinvest that money into other movies. But like I said, the most famous stuff is Master of the Universe and Over the Top, the Missing in Action movies with Chuck Norris, things like that. They made a lot of those movies, a lot of them with a lot of crap as well. But it's the history of canon film. It's a lot of fun. It's called Electric Boogaloo. I'll mention another one called Tread, which is on Netflix. It's about this guy who, it's a true story about him turning a bulldozer into a fortified tank and going on a rampage in this town because he had had enough of the local government. And it's a true story of him driving this tank bulldozer and wrecking government buildings. And it was a true thing that happened years ago. So it feels like a movie, a fictional movie, but it is a true story that happened, and it mixes some reenactments with actual footage of the rampage. So I highly recommend that. It is a crazy movie about a guy just pushed too far who just could not fucking take it anymore with local government and all these things where they just pushed him too far, and he just snapped and spent 2 years making a fortified bulldozer. So it's a crazy story, but well worth watching. And finally, one that was a HBO Max exclusive called Class Action Park, which is about Action Park, which the Johnny Knoxville movie Action Point is a takeoff of, kind of sort of based on as well. But it's documented about the real Action Park in the 80s. Basically this water park that had no regulations, no safety features. People just got crazy hurt and mauled, and just absolute madness and anarchy of this thing, and told by the people who ran it. So Class Action Park is another great one as well. So I know it's a lot of things, but it's really great. Yeah, definitely. I would definitely say best documentary. I could go on and on about documentaries, all the documentaries. So
I feel like that would work better as I feel like that would work as a tier ranker.
Yeah, definitely. So good stuff.
Good stuff all over. Three Identical Strangers is one that I've been wanting to see. I remember it kind of got overshadowed by the hate for Won't You Be My Neighbor not being
right, not even being nominated. So. Right. Yeah, I was going to say that, but I feel like there was enough of an uproar, people talking about Mr. Rogers, and you also had the Tom Hanks movie, so there was a lot of Mr. Rogers stuff around that time. So I feel like we didn't leave Mr. Rogers out in the mainstream. People were talking about him.
Yeah.
But that documentary is good too.
Yeah. So our next genre, I like saying it like that.
Fantasy?
Was fantasy, yeah. Why don't you kick us off this time?
All right, I'm going to go bonkers. If you haven't gone back and watched Return to Oz, go on Disney Plus and watch Return to Oz, because holy shit, is that a nightmare fuel-inducing movie that if you have not seen Return to Oz from 1985 with Fairuza Balk, it is, I remember the first time I watched it just a few years ago. As a 30-year-old, I was horrified, and it gave me nightmares. This movie is bonkers, bug nuts crazy. It's definitely a what were they thinking, type of movie as far as the imagery throughout it. I mean, there's literally stuff where the evil queen or whatever she is in the movie is like swapping heads with these heads in jars. Like, it's nuts. There are these crazy roller skating lanky people that are running around roller skating that are creepy. It's just got a very dark atmosphere. It is nothing like the original Wizard of Oz, and it's nuts. Like if you have not gone back and watched Return to Oz, I recommend it. At least watching it once for a what were they thinking? Well, how is this a Disney movie? It's on Disney Plus right now. You can watch it, and it will give you nightmares as a fully grown man, Jacob. So please watch it.
I'll watch it early in the morning and not before I go to bed.
Yeah, right. Yeah, not before you go to bed. Yeah, it tries to be charming, but it's not. It's not at all. It's just scary. It's an unintentional horror film. Turn to Oz.
Oh, yeah, I'll have to check it out. I've never actually seen it, so
yeah. It has nothing to do with Wizard of Oz, like at all, other than the fact that they go to Oz in quotation marks. That Wizard of Oz is playing Dorothy, even though she's significantly younger than Judy Garland. It's kind of crazy. Like I don't know where the continuity. It starts out with her in a mental hospital. That's all I gotta say. Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. I guess they took her having a crazy dream way too seriously at the end of Wizard of Oz.
Well. One that I want to bring up is Swiss Army Man. I feel like it's another one that came and went. Paul Dano and
Harry Potter.
Daniel Radcliffe. Yeah. I love the way Google gives the plot synopsis. It says being stranded on a deserted island leaves young Hank bored, lonely, and without hope. Hank is the Paul Dano character. As a rope hangs around his neck, Hank prepares to end it all until he suddenly spots a man laying by the shore. Unfortunately, he is dead and quite flatulent. Using the gassy body to his advantage, Hank miraculously makes it back to the mainland. However, he now finds himself lost in the wilderness and dragging the talking corpse named Manny along for the adventure.
A little bit of like Castaway. It's like Castaway meets Weekend at Bernie's.
Yeah, and that's all I want to say about the movie. If you haven't seen it yet, highly recommend it. I think it's definitely worth a watch.
Yeah. All right. I'll mention one that's a little more on the family-friendly side, not as nightmare-inducing, but still a lot of fun. There's a movie called The Spiderweight Chronicles that I'm a big fan of. Have you seen it, Jacob?
I started watching it, and for whatever reason, had to turn it off. But yeah,
for whatever reason, I'm a big fan of this movie. I think it's super fun, really creative, entertaining. It's I'm blanking on his name. He played Charlie in the new Charlie and the Chocolate Factory. What's his name? It's kind of right after this. I'm blanking on his name, but the British kid.
Yeah, it's not Nicholas Hoult.
No. It's I know we're live, folks. Sorry, I didn't prep all this stuff. What are you gonna do?
Oh my goodness, yeah, no, it's right there too. Like I can.
Freddie Highmore. Freddie Highmore.
Yep.
Freddie Highmore coming off of Charlie and the Chocolate Factory, who, despite my qualms about Charlie and the Chocolate Factory, he's really good in that movie, and he's really solid. And he's been on Bates Motel, and he's got that Good Doctor show, all that kind of stuff. Really good. But it's him. Mary Louise Parker is his mom. But it's got a lot of really fun people doing the creatures. But it's basically this. He opens up this can of worms where all these kind of little creatures are attacking his house, but in kind of a fantastical way. They're fighting him with swords and stuff, but they can only see him when they wear these like half glasses things, like they're kind of like in our dimension, but not in our dimension, like you can't really see them. You have to put on these glasses and stuff, but they're kind of defending the house from these little creatures. I just think it's a really charming, fun, just kind of, it's got a little bit of swashbuckling, just good stuff, that kind of gets, again, 2008, another 2008 gem that got kind of lost in the shuffle. So I highly recommend the Spiderweight Chronicles. Yeah.
Yeah, no, it's on, I believe it's on Netflix. That's where I found it. And so, no, it's definitely one that I'm going to try to go back to because, I enjoyed what I saw. Yeah. And Freddie Highmore.
Yeah, no, it's fun.
I think Freddie Highmore gave fantastic performances as a kid. He was in Finding Neverland. I don't know if you've watched that yet.
Oh, right. I haven't watched it yet. I think that one's on Netflix as well as this one. So I'm gonna get to him.
Yeah, he'll be in that one. The next one I'm gonna bring up. Debated whether I wanted to put this when we talked about horror. If I wanted to put it in fantasy, there were a couple more horror that I wanted to talk about. And thriller, so I put it here, and that's Horns again with
Daniel Radcliffe, yeah.
Daniel Radcliffe. He is blamed for the murder of his girlfriend, and then he wakes up one morning with horns, and finds out that he has like these supernatural powers, and he goes out to find the killer because, spoiler alert, it was not him. That's what he thinks. I don't know. Was he the killer? I don't know. Watch the movie and find out. That's all. Yeah, it's great. I think Daniel Radcliffe gave, like, this was like just after Harry Potter, because this was 2013. Like, he did this.
Yeah, well, he's been doing all these little weird independent character movies because, you know why? Because he can. Because he's got FU Harry Potter money and he doesn't need the money. You know what I mean? So he's set for life. So he doesn't need to do any like big blockbuster films. So he does movies like that. He does movies like Swiss Army Man. He does movies like The Woman in Black. You know, he does all these interesting projects to where he doesn't have to do a big high budget movie. I mean, he occasionally makes appearances here and there, but he's got that Harry Potter money, so he's just going to do whatever he wants to do and whatever passion projects he wants to. Good for him, you know?
Yeah.
And he makes interesting movies.
Yeah. I think the biggest movie he's done post Harry Potter is Now You See Me 2.
So
and
he's not even like the main guy in that. Yeah, exactly.
No. So
right.
Yeah, no. Horns is great. I believe it's set in Washington, so that's kind of another.
There you
go. That's where I live. So anytime there's a movie based in the state I live in, I'll give it a chance. And when it's actually pretty good, that's even better.
Nice. All right. HIJ. Okay, so horror. Sorry, I was doing my ABCs in my head to see what was next because, you know, I'm 35 years old and can't figure that out immediately without counting on my fingers.
Yeah.
So, yeah. I'll just rattle off my three really quick because I'm the horror guy. I'm not going to spend all night talking about horror because I could, but I'm not going to because we don't need a 3-hour episode. I'll just quickly mention the Blob remake from '88, which I'm really high on. I think it deserves to be spoken of in the same vein as things like The Thing and The Fly, as far as like great horror remakes. Again, not quite on exactly that same level, but very, very close. And great practical effects, really good story. The Blob from '88, I think, is a phenomenal horror remake that doesn't get talked about enough. I'll go with Stuart Gordon's From Beyond, which was right after Reanimator, which a lot of people have seen or are big fans of, but they forget the follow-up of From Beyond, kind of based on H.P. Lovecraft. Basically takes the concept of this mad scientist invents a machine where you can reveal the creatures that are all around us just in another dimension, which there's a lot of theories about that they turn on this thing and all of a sudden we see these crazy creatures that are just right in front of us. They just can't interact with us because they're in another dimension. So interdimensional crazy monsters and lots of great practical makeup and effects, and it's really creepy and a lot of fun. And my other one will be Night of the Creeps, which is basically Slither meets a zombie movie, and it's a lot of fun. Just about these little slugs who turn people into zombies, and a great Tom Atkins performance, and really, really good time. So 3 80s movies because I love 80s horror, but 80s horror rocks. So Night of the Creeps, From Beyond, and The Blob are just quick horror picks. Because like I could talk all night, so I won't go too far down the rabbit hole because I could mention 8,000 other horror movies, but I'm not going to. So yeah. Because this isn't a podcast about horror, Jacob. It's just a podcast about movies. So I'm not going to be that guy.
Yeah. So my first pick, I went more of the thriller aspect. So I went back to 2008. I didn't realize how many picks were going to be from 2008. It's the Samuel L. Jackson movie, Lakeview Terrace.
Oh my God. What a crazy, weird movie. Yeah. Wow. I saw that in theaters. I sure did. I saw that opening weekend.
It's not a movie I love, but it's a movie.
It's a batshit crazy movie. Yeah. It's a crazy movie. Sam Jackson, boy, he don't like interracial couples in that movie, does he, Jacob? He's not a fan.
He does not. This is so Samuel L. Jackson, and then it's Kerry Washington and Patrick Wilson as the married couple that moved next door. And Samuel L. Jackson does not. It's been a while since I've seen it, but I really remember. And then again, look there, it's another one that's on Stars, so maybe I'll rewatch it soon.
There you go.
But when I was when I was looking up movies, like which ones do I want to talk about? This one came up and like, oh yeah, that one. Because I remember it being a little apparently Will Smith produced it. I'm looking up some.
He sure did.
Because I couldn't remember who the white guy in this movie was. So I had to look that up. But yeah, no, Will Smith produced this movie. Cool. And Will Smith, or not Will Smith. Wow. Samuel Jackson does not like white people dating beautiful black women.
Hey, good for Patrick Wilson, because Kerry Washington is really hot. So good for Patrick Wilson on him. But he's not a fan. He starts like terrorizing them. He's a cop, so he gets away with it most of the movie, which is like kind of the twist is that he's a cop, so he gets away with a lot of stuff. And there's a big confrontation at the end. But it's a crazy movie. It's definitely like, I wouldn't say it's a great movie because it's not, but it's a fun. If you want to kind of laugh and kind of see just how over the top things can get, it's a fun like Sunday afternoon movie. I'll say that.
That's a good way to. Yeah, that's a good way to describe it.
It's very short. It's good.
Yeah. Another short one that I decided to pick is I believe it's a Netflix original, and that's the movie Hush.
Hush is great. Yeah, with Mike Flanagan. Mike Flanagan movie. Yeah. Mike Flanagan's awesome. Yeah, that's a good one.
Yeah, it's about this deaf author who's trying to finish up. Is it a novel? I believe it's a novel.
She's at like a cabin. She's like her own little cabin in the woods, like a little retreat.
Yeah,
and she gets terrorized by this guy trying to break in, do like a home invasion, like a killer, and she has to kind of fight him off. But she's deaf, so she can't hear him breaking in windows, things like that, and so she's at a disadvantage. But it's her trying to survive. Yeah, it's a simple story, but it's good.
Very simple. Yeah, and this is another short one. It's 90 minutes.
Oh, it's like 80. It's 82 minutes, bro. That's even better. It's great. That's why I love. I love horror movies because a lot of them are like 85 minutes. Man, they breeze by. They're easy watches. Hey, that again, not that I have anything against long movies, but sometimes when you're looking for something to watch, runtime can matter. And man, you see a movie like this, and you're like, "Oh, that sounds good." Oh, 82 minutes. Yeah, I'm in. Let's do it. And you're just there. So but it's Mike Flanagan who did Oculus, and he did Gerald's Game. He's done all that stuff on Netflix, The Haunting of Hill House, all that stuff that's getting a lot of praise on Netflix. He's really good, and this is one of his very small budget movies, but really solid.
Yeah, I love John Gallagher Jr. in this movie. I think he's terrifying. John Gallagher. I had to like rack my brain to remember where I had seen him from, and it was because I had seen this very late. I did not see it when it came out, and so I looked it up and like, oh, that's the guy from the Belko Experiment, because I really enjoyed.
And he's also in 10 Cloverfield Lane. He's the one guy in 10 Cloverfield Lane. So down there with Mary Elizabeth Winstead and John Goodman. So, but there's a great bit. I'll just spoil like one bit the way she outsmarts him. It's not the whole movie. It's just there's a bit where she sets off the alarm, which is a very high-pitched alarm because she's deaf, with like a bunch of vibrations. So, of course, it doesn't really affect her, but boy, does it make his ears, go mad. You know what I mean? So it's kind of a genius way to kind of harm him without harming herself. But stuff like that where she has to get a little, creative to fight back. So good stuff. A good premise.
Yeah.
Excellent.
Very solid. Yeah.
All right. Cool. We'll move on from that to... JK
this is
M.
Probably the genre you're most excited to talk about, the
music and musicals. Well, so I don't have a lot of picks. I've got 2 picks, but I don't have a lot of picks. So maybe I'll let you take lead on this one.
I only went 2 as well. I mean, I'm sure I could have found more, but I did just keep it at 2. And the reason we went music/musical is because I know that you are not a huge musical fan, but there are some movies.
There's a few. I mean, again, I like Grease. I like Mary Poppins. I like the 90s Disney movies that have a lot of songs. Those are fine. You know what I mean? Like, I'm just not, I don't seek out, I'm not watching In the Heights anytime soon. I'm not watching the new West Side Story anytime soon. It's not for me. Like I probably won't get around to those, but it is, I'm just not a musical guy.
So the reason we went with music/musicals is then you can include movies like, 8 Mile or Straight Outta Compton that aren't musicals but are based around music and have music in them. But I did not pick. I picked. So I actually didn't go with musicals. I went with movies that are based around music. The first one I picked is called Sing Street. I think Sing Street definitely has its
Sing
fans.
Street. Sing Street is good. Yeah, that's a good one. One of the better ones.
Yeah, it's about these kids that form a band. And yeah, no, it's just a really fun high school coming of age story with great music. I believe this one also came out in 2016 or something like that, 2016, 2017. So it's fairly recent. I can't remember the actor who plays the older brother off the top of my head, but he is fantastic. He's been in a lot of good stuff. But yeah, no, the music's great. The soundtrack that I can still listen to. Today I have a few songs on the playlist. Jack Rayner is the guy I'm thinking about. So yeah, he's fantastic. He's a Irish actor. Yeah, so this is an Irish movie. Yeah, no, it's all about this kid wanting to impress this girl, and he ends up forming this awesome band instead. Yeah, no, it's a great movie. I love it. It's definitely rewatchable. And once we do my top 64 redux for tournament fights, you'll probably see this one again.
Nice.
So yeah, that's one pick. And then the other one, just real quick, it's called I Can Only Imagine. It's about the...
You know what, Jacob? I saw that movie.
You did?
Because, well, for a different reason than probably you. But I saw this movie in theaters. But you go ahead first. You go first, and I'll tell you why I saw this movie.
Okay. So I saw this movie because I have listened to this song for years. I love this song. It means a lot to me personally. It's one of those songs that, if I'm going through a tough time, I can turn this one on, and it's a hopeful song. And then seeing the story behind it, I didn't know who the main actor was. But the band is also, like, I love the band. I've seen the band live, Mercy Me. I've seen them live, and they put on a good show. Dennis Quaid, as the dad, gives a solid performance. But yeah, just seeing the story behind the song and how it came to be was just really cool. Just because I enjoy the song and I wanted to know the story behind it, and so that's basically it. And I just thought it was done really well.
So I saw it in the theater. But I saw it in the theater because I listened to a podcast called God Awful Movies, which is about bad religious movies, mainly bad Christian movies. And so they pick one every week to basically go through and review. And they try to see the ones that come out in movie theaters, as they come out as well. So they were doing that. So I went and saw it. And so I've seen I Can Only Imagine. I'll leave my review on the table for that, but yeah, I watched it for those purposes. So I had nefarious means when I saw it, but I have seen this movie.
No, and it's definitely gonna have its fans. It's not a movie for everyone. Like, if you don't have that,
yeah. I will say it's not as corny and bad as a lot of other Christian movies. I'll put it that way. It's not bad. It's a cut above the other ones. I'll say that. So yeah, it's a little bit better made. There's some ones that are horribly made that are terrible. But this is one of the ones it's slightly better quality. I'll say that definitely.
Yeah.
So yeah, the two I'll go with are a horror musical called Repo the Genetic Opera, which is a lot of fun because it's a horror musical. It's kind of it's a movie that came out before that other movie, Repo Men, with Jude Law and Forrest Whitaker. That movie basically ripped off this movie. It's about a guy who goes and repossesses organs that people owe money on, but it turned it into a musical. It's pretty fun, just because, again, it's got a guy going around killing people, for these organs. They lean into the horror, but while he's doing it, kind of like a Sweeney Todd sort of a thing, a little bit like Sweeney Todd. So yeah, it's fun like that. And the other one is the comedy that has ruined music biopics for me forever. That's Walk Hard, the Dewey Cox Story, which is a brilliant movie from the 2000s. If you have still not seen it, it is basically a parody of Ray and Walk the Line, probably most specifically, it takes from those movies. But if once you see this, you can't watch a music biopic the same ever again, because it hits all the beats. It makes fun of all the ups and downs that every one of those movies goes through. Again, awesome character actors they have comedy people that show up all throughout the movie. But really, really funny stuff. Like truly, truly, especially if you know what they're parodying. Like even if you don't know specifically, but if you watch Ray and watch Walk the Line and then watch Walk Hard, the Dewey Cox Story, you will have a blast. Like watching this movie just rip them to shreds. It's a lot of fun, and I highly recommend Walk Hard. And the music is really good. The songs are catchy. The songs are really fun. Like throughout the movie, John C. Reilly can sing, and the songs are actually, the soundtrack is good.
Yeah.
So yeah.
That's solid. Yeah, I think it's a forgotten John C. Reilly gem of the 2000s. Because he's got Step Brothers, he's got Talladega Nights.
Yeah, because he's the lead. He's the lead
level
of this one.
Yeah,
and Kristen Wiig is funny. She's actually really funny in this movie. Like there's a running gag where every time he comes home from a tour, she's got 3 more babies like running around the house, even though he hasn't been home. So every time he comes home, eventually there's like 20 babies running around, the toddlers running around the house, because in those movies they always have the thing where they're on tour or do something and they've already got the house with the kid. You know what I mean? That's like a trope of all those movies. It's a trope of all these movies. Like it hits every trope of all these things. It's just super, super fun. I highly recommend Walk Hard if you haven't gone back and checked it out.
Me too. It's great. So we just got a couple of the genres left.
Only 2 genres left, I believe. So yeah. So up that was also on Stars, Jacob. You can rewatch.
Oh, there we go.
Walk Hard.
The next genre we got is the mystery. And this one's kind of tough for me because I realized that I had to
think about this one.
Like, as far as mystery movies go, like the good ones are really good, like Gone Girl and The Prestige and stuff like that. I don't know why those are the first 2 that came to my mind. So I kind of cheated a little bit. Well, I wouldn't call it cheating because it's definitely a mystery movie, but it's an animated mystery movie, and we're going to the 80s. We're going The Great Mouse Detective.
Hey, he's a detective solving crimes. It counts.
And I think this is another. I think it's another underrated Disney movie. It kind of came out in the 80s when they weren't doing so hot. But the Great Mouse Detective is fun. Vincent Price as Professor Radigan. It's great voice casting. The songs that they have in this movie, just great, and it's just a fun Disney movie. And I think it deserves to be talked about with some of the better Disney movies. So Great Mouse Detective, it's great.
All right.
I didn't really have another pick. Like the other movie that came to mind was Mystic River. I wouldn't necessarily call that underrated, but I feel like it's not talked about nowadays. But it's great. Sean Penn, Tim Robbins, Kevin Bacon. The scene where, is that my daughter? Like that still gets me. Like it's heartbreaking, but that one's really good. I love that movie. This one was really tough for me personally. So that's what I got.
I've got 2 little ones that are everybody who sees them agrees are good. I just think they're 2 smaller movies that kind of went under the radar a little bit. But I found audiences later. There's a 2013 movie called Side Effects from Steven Soderbergh. That's kind of a mystery thriller. I don't know if you've ever seen it. It's with Rooney Mara and Channing Tatum, Jude Law, Catherine Zeta-Jones. It's really, really good. Steven Soderbergh movie. It's kind of about Rooney Mara's Channing Tatum's her husband. He's getting out of jail for insider trading, and it's just this whole thing where she's always got all these different pills that are prescribed by Jude Law, and she kills Channing Tatum in the middle of the night while she's sleepwalking on pills. And it's kind of a mystery courtroom thriller about what really happened. Like, is she telling the story? She's kind of an unreliable narrator. What really was going on, who was kind of influencing her. Catherine Zeta-Jones kind of starts out a pseudo lesbian relationship with her after that. Very seductive in this movie. But it's kind of a mystery thriller, just very old school, very very simple, but really solid. I remember seeing this in the theater and just being it kind of knocked my socks off at the time. And it kind of came and went, and people kind of forgot about it. So I believe it's also on Stars, so you can see this one on Stars, Jacob. So there you go. Side effects. So side effects. There you go. So you're getting your money's worth out of this one with this episode. The other movie, yeah, Side Effects is great. People, Steven, people, it's really good. People have seen it. Really, really solid. The other movie I'll talk about is 2017. Again, it's a movie that people love when they see it, but it just kind of flew under the radar. It's Elizabeth Olsen and Jeremy Renner. Wind River. Wind River is a great movie, and it's kind of because it's got kind of a murder mystery sort of thing at the center of it. Investigating this woman who gets found, out in the middle of nowhere, and they suspect foul play and stuff. It's kind of Jeremy Renner kind of digging in this small town. But yeah, really, really good. It's a Taylor Sheridan movie. It gets into kind of a little more action later on, but it kind of starts off as like a mystery. But Wind River's awesome, and it's a little great underrated gem that again knocked my socks off in the theaters, and more people should check it out. Wind River's really, really good.
Agreed. And if you want to hear me talk about that movie some more, you should check out my next Battleground match, which I believe is coming out the 2nd of February. So this upcoming Wednesday, that'll be live over on TMG.
Nice.
So if you want to hear me talk about it, check it out. I had a great match
with two movies that had mainstream releases, but I feel like not a lot of people saw either one of them. So yeah, Wind River and Side Effects, really, really good movies. Check them out.
Yeah. Yes, I would definitely second Wind River. I actually just watched it not too long ago. So our last genre, and I mean, there were a couple other genres that we could have included, like war movies and westerns, but I'm gonna be honest, I didn't include those because I just don't watch a lot.
I'll just say westerns. I'll just say one for westerns real quick. Everybody talks about The Good, the Bad, and the Ugly, but I'm really high on the movie that came before it for a few dollars more. I think it's better. I think it's a lot more fun. I think it's a lot more entertaining. Lee Van Cleef and Clint Eastwood's dynamic in that movie is two bounty hunters teaming up and going after one guy. I think it's just really, really fun, and it's shorter than Good, Bad, and the Ugly. A lot more concise, a lot more entertaining. That's all I'll say. Shout out. If people forget about that one, and people always talk about Good, Bad, and the Ugly, go back and watch for a few dollars more. That's all I'll say for westerns. It's one of my favorite ones of all time. There you go.
I debated on like drama, including dramas, but it's such a broad genre. I feel
it's such a broad genre. Yeah, you'd have to break down drama into like family drama, courtroom drama. Right. There's so many subgenres you could go into. You know what I mean? Drama is such a broad category. Yeah,
I didn't, but one that I do want to just bring up real quick because this movie was such a surprise to me. I found it on Netflix. It's no longer on Netflix, but again, this is on Stars. So if you have Stars, I would definitely recommend this. It's called East Side Sushi. About this woman who goes to work in a sushi restaurant, but she's not Asian. She's a Hispanic woman, and they're not supposed to be making sushi. Like the owner of the restaurant she works at is very strict on, no, I need my sushi chefs to be, these Japanese men. Right. And so she learns, she enters a competition, and it's just great. It was a very pleasant surprise. But yeah, it's just a straight up drama. There's no other subgenre to put it in. So I just want to bring that one up real quick.
Hey, there's a good documentary called Jiro Dreams of Sushi about a guy that makes sushi in Japan in this really tiny place that's booked up 6 months in advance. It's a good documentary about sushi. I don't even like sushi. It's a good documentary.
I'm not a big sushi guy either.
But it's a fascinating documentary watching him take pride in all this sushi. It's interesting. You like food? I like food.
That's
good.
Who doesn't like food?
Yeah, right.
So, yeah, no,
Sci-fi. Yes.
I decided to go with one that I feel is definitely underrated. I feel like it was underseen when it came out. But this guy has just given solid performance after solid performance, and that guy is Robert Pattinson, and the movie is High Life.
High Life. I love High Life. I've seen High Life. Yes.
Yeah,
High Life's a good movie.
Robert Pattinson is fantastic. I feel like he hasn't given a bad performance in years, in my opinion. But yeah, no, Robert Pattinson plays this guy, and him and his baby daughter are the last survivors of a dangerous mission, and now they have to rely on each other to survive. And yeah, no, it's classified as sci-fi horror. I really don't want to get into it because I feel like not a lot of people have seen it, and I feel like people definitely should see it. So yeah, no, High Life. I think great performances. I thought um, the setting of the space station or whatever they're on was really good. Would you say that's like I can see it's been a while. Would you say that's like a one location movie?
I mean, kind of. I mean, any movie where it's on a space station, is kind of a one location thing. It doesn't stray too far from it. I'm just hesitant to do well because spoiler, Alien's on the list because it does pretty much take place on the Nostromo.
Yeah.
Pretty much the whole time. So, you could classify that. I just don't think High Life has been seen enough to include it on the list, but High Life is still a really good movie. But yeah, there's a pretty gnarly little flashback scene where this girl gets taken into a black hole and gets messed up pretty bad. It's pretty gnarly. But yeah, like there's some good stuff. Yeah, it's kind of an isolation movie, just seeing him kind of do this day-to-day life with him and the baby. But yeah, it's good, simple sci-fi. It's very simple stuff. Not a lot of dialogue. Especially in a lot of scenes where it's just him and the baby. Obviously, he's not really like the living guy. A lot of his stuff you kind of have to infer and kind of figure out. But yeah, it's a really good kind of low budget sci-fi movie. Yeah, it's really solid. I like High Life.
And a solid performance from one Andre 3000.
Andre 3000.
So yes.
Hey man,
another reason to watch it.
I've got kind of a sci-fi / horror movie. It's a movie called The Endless. And The Endless is a movie about this people investigating a creepy cult, which that's always a good premise for a movie. Creepy cults are always good. But it's a creepy cult that kind of worships some entity that's kind of unknown. But there's the reason it's sci-fi is because they encounter all these people throughout this area that are caught in time loops of varying degree. And it's like these people in various situations where some of them are stuck in a time loop of a day, so at the end of the day, they start the time loop all over again, just in this house or something, or in a barn. There are people who are stuck in a time loop for 10 seconds that just like this guy who just is like in this tent and keeps, kind of snaps out of it, wakes up, stands up, walks to the end of the tent, and starts back over in the chair again. Stands up, walks to the end of the tent, starts back over again. Which that would suck. That would really suck. That would not be one of that time loop. But some that are like an hour, but they're kind of slaves to this entity. They get caught up in these time loops. So I don't want to spoil everything, but that's kind of the sci-fi aspect of the thing. So it's kind of a mashup of sci-fi, creepy cults, and horror. It's called The Endless. It's a really good, kind of cool independent movie. Now, again, not everything. Some things are left to kind of a little ambiguous, a little to your own interpretation, but really interesting stuff that'll keep you hooked. So good stuff. Called The Endless.
Yeah,
I believe it's on Netflix.
I actually own that movie.
Do you?
I do. Yes, I found it at Walmart, and
I
thought it was really. I read the back, and I was intrigued. So
yeah. Well, that one's free on Prime and free on Vudu. So there you go. The Endless.
I'm gonna go underrated here. I'm gonna go sci-fi comedy. I'm gonna go Bill and Ted's Bogus Journey.
Yes.
I think the sequel not as good as the first, but still a very solid comedy. I mean Alex Winter, Keanu Reeves, like it's Bill and Ted again. I think they had a lot to live up to with the first. I think the first was fantastic. I think they were, but the second's got some good humor.
It's so different, but it's so fun. Like the evil Bill and Ted robots are super fun. Trying to kill them, doing all this Bill and Ted stuff, but just having this killer edge to them is great. The stuff, the bunny rabbit in that movie gave me nightmares when I saw this when I was a kid, hopping around the little hell dimension or whatever that they're in, and that old lady, trying to give him a kiss, like all that stuff is so creepy, but a great unique design to when they're in hell, like all that stuff is really unique and fun. Bill and Ted's Bogus Journey is it's so creative. Yeah, it's one of the most unique sequels out there because they don't do any of the time travel stuff really. And come on, William Sadler as Death, he's great. Like he's so good as Death. Like he's awesome. There's a reason they brought him back. I had to bring him back for the third one because like how do you not? He's awesome.
Yeah. I love that the only way they can so they have to beat Death at a game.
Yeah, well, and of course
like
it's like a game. So people in the past have probably challenged him to chess or this, that, and the other. Yeah, they're like, we're gonna play Battleship and Twister and Clue or Guess Who or Clue, all kinds of stuff, whatever, just all these silly board games. And you know what? Not a bad strategy. It's pretty fair at least with that. I always thought since I saw that movie, what I would challenge, Death to. I guess I would just go like movie trivia or something generic, but it would have to be some kind of specific game. But yeah, like what would I challenge Death to? Yeah, I definitely wouldn't do anything physical because I'll just run out of breath. But yeah, good strategy, Bill and Ted.
I don't
Oh, Another Earth is good. Another Earth is good. Yeah, it's a little independent movie too, where there's literally another Earth creeping towards Earth, like getting closer and closer and closer, and you kind of get a sense of like what's going to happen. So it's a little more of a drama that kind of creeps into sci-fi. But yeah, Another Earth is a solid little movie. Yeah, Steven, definitely.
All right, well, you got one more.
Yeah, Moon with Sam Rockwell. If you haven't seen Moon with Sam Rockwell, great movie. Pretty much just him and the voice of Kevin Spacey as his robot, and that's pretty much the entire cast of this movie. But it's Sam Rockwell kind of tending to things on this moon base, and tending to his kind of daily chores and things. But it kind of turns into a little twisty mystery about what his real purpose is up there. So I'll just kind of leave it at that because I really want people to jump into it. From 2009. Yeah, Sam Rockwell. If you're a Sam Rockwell fan, it's not underrated because people who've seen it love it. It's just kind of still underseen. But it's a Duncan Jones movie, yeah, from back then. Really, really good, solid stuff. So Moon, Sam Rockwell.
Yeah, really that's one movie. It's one that's been on my radar. I guess I need to get Pluto TV because it's free there.
Yeah, and one other one I know is a big hit, and it has Will Smith in it. People don't talk about iRobot enough. iRobot's fucking rocks. That movie's great, and like I don't know why it never gets brought up in conversations of the best sci-fi movies of the 2000s. But that movie's so rewatchable and so entertaining. And yeah, he doesn't like robots, and I think they're creepy too. The ones they have in the movie are very similar to the ones that are about to come out with the faces and stuff. It's very creepy.
And speaking of robots, apparently WALL-E is starting to be underrated. I don't understand why people are hating on that movie. WALL-E is fantastic. It's one of the best Pixar movies. It's one of the best animated movies. And shame on everyone for talking.
People don't like WALL-E. People don't understand silent character development in the first 45 minutes and how great that can be. And no dialogue. Good stuff.
It's great. So, yeah. No, I mean, I've definitely got some new movies on my radar that I will be checking out, and hopefully anyone who watches will also get some new recommendations. So yeah, I'm excited to watch these and check them out because there were definitely a few that I hadn't heard of. So
all right. Well, Jacob, what shall we ponder about what to talk about next week to tease the people? I don't know. Should we do some more fun recommendations? I talked about doing something similar to our birth year thing, about doing an A to Z alphabet thing, about naming one movie for every letter of the alphabet. I thought that'd be kind of fun.
That would be kind of fun.
It'd be easy for me, like I said, because I have all my physical media movies in alphabetical order over there, so I could just literally scroll through and pick something for every letter. But yeah, I mean, I think that would be a lot of fun. If you want to dive into that next week, and it'd just be kind of a breezy one. We don't have to do a ton of picks. Literally one movie for each thing, and it has to be. I would say it has to be a movie we haven't talked about yet on any of our episodes. I would say that's the only caveat.
That's the caveat, yes.
A movie that it doesn't have to necessarily be our favorite movie. Maybe just a movie we like that starts with the letter. And we'll say the word "the" doesn't count. So you can drop the. Same with the letter A, unless it's a movie that starts with the letter A, like A Star Is Born, and you want to count that. Otherwise, A doesn't have to count. I'll say that. We'll talk behind the scenes, but you know what I mean.
Yeah, I know what you mean. Yeah, and I would
well,
also.
You know what? And how about we each throw in a number movie as well?
There we go.
Have a number in the title. Yeah, yes. We'll do
and
that.
Then, Steven, this might happen.
I don't like overrated questions. I don't like overrated questions, honestly, Steven. I don't like overrated questions in Battleground because that's so subjective. Because what I think is overrated, I just don't want to crap on movies for no reason. Like I don't like doing worst of movies unless it's like we're doing Razzies or something like that. Overrated is because it's like. It's just my opinion. I'm just going to piss people off, being like this movie that everybody loves. I just don't like that much because I feel like a lot of my picks would be the same. I've talked about over and over again, stuff like Blade Runner or whatever, but that's just my personal taste. I realize why people like them. So me calling them overrated is weird. So that's all I would say about that.
I would say instead of calling them overrated, we could do like movies everyone else loves that we're not as high on.
Yeah.
So we could do it in that. So we're not necessarily crapping on them and calling them bad.
Eventually. We'll see.
We're just on the opposite side.
Yeah.
So that's definitely a conversation that
we'll consider it. But yeah, I think underrated is more fun because that way you get to just highlight movies that you like that maybe other people will enjoy as well once they see it. Things like that. Movies that deserve a second watch. Stuff like that. I like talking about that more. It's more interesting than just crapping on movies for no reason just because I didn't get it. It's like whatever. You could, there's always movies like that, but we'll consider it, Stephen. We'll see. I think next week we'll do our similar to our birthday thing. We'll do a little A to Z. We'll have a little fun. Go through the alphabet. Considering I need to brush up on my alphabet anyways because I was trying to figure out which one was next alphabetically. So I'm gonna brush up on my alphabet next week, and we'll each pick a movie for each letter of the alphabet, but again, nothing we have mentioned on this show before so far. And again, doesn't have to be our absolute favorite movie, just a movie we like, from each of those letters that we enjoy.
Yeah.
So fair enough. And so it'll be a random assortment of stuff. It'll be a lot of fun.
It will be. I might have to rewatch the birth year episode just to see if what I
make sure you didn't. Well, just
what I talked about.
Message me while you're trying to pick them, and I think I'll remember them and be like, okay. No, you already talked about that, or I've already talked about that. But yeah, it'll be fun for me because I'll get to just go through my collection and pick out stuff. So that'll be fun.
Yeah,
I really enjoy that. I think we'll do that next week. That'll be a nice, breezy, fun episode as well. And again, I like stuff like that because we get to highlight movies that we like that maybe people haven't seen, maybe people haven't heard of, or if we each haven't seen it, on our own things, we can just bring up random movies and no real structure, just have a little fun. So that's what I like movies.
Yeah, that one's gonna be fun. What else is gonna be fun is tomorrow night. Tournament fights, best Simpsons characters.
I will not be on that episode. I usually am on every episode, but I will not be on that episode just because, again, I enjoy The Simpsons casually, but I'm not a diehard fan. I want to save you guys, the diehard fans of The Simpsons. You guys have fun with that. I don't want to skew the votes in tournament fights, for a casual guy who may not be able to quote all those characters and all that. So I want you guys to have fun. Yeah, tournament fights tomorrow night, a special Monday night edition that we do occasionally of tournament fights. Best Simpsons characters. Going to throw them all into the randomizer, see who comes out on top. Because you never know. It could be one of the top characters. Could be one of the fun side characters. You never know. Like who will come out on top. It might not just be Homer Simpson. Maybe somebody beats him out. I mean, if Homer and Bart go against each other, could split the vote. Things like that. You do those guys against Mo or somebody. Maybe they like that. Chief Wiggum. Those funny characters on stuff.
That's the beauty of the randomizer.
Mm-hmm.
And then check us out, podcast about wrestling. Jordan Owens and I will probably recap the Rumble.
Talk about the fallout of the Rumble and see where they're going towards the road to WrestleMania. Talk a little bit about that, where you think they're going to go. Yeah.
And if you watched the last episode, I pretty much called everything.
Nice.
So I feel like I know what I'm talking about.
Karnak the Magnificent up here. Yeah. There you go.
So check us out. I don't know what day that'll be, but that'll be live on the channel. And then we'll be back with a podcast about movies.
And the only other thing I'll mention is me and Henry Confidential over on his channel. Let's Rank Stuff. It's a lot of fun. We've been doing it every Wednesday night. We go live as well on that one too, usually at around 7 or 7:30 Eastern time, something like that. This week we'll be doing Edgar Wright movies. So we'll just be, we don't have a number structure or anything. We don't do like just strictly top 10s or whatever. So that way we can just rank whatever we want to rank, any topics. So we're ranking Edgar Wright movies. There's only 6 of them if you don't include the Sparks Brothers documentary, which we're not going to include. But yeah, we're just going to include his 6 main films, including their most recent Last Night in Soho. And then the week after that, we're going to do AVP, Alien versus Predator, all the movies and both franchises mashed into one ranking. So that's going to be fun seeing where they all rank against each other. So that's why we wanted to do it. Just throw them all in there. So that'll be a lot of fun.
Yeah, that will be fun. I'm gonna have to tune into that one. That's gonna be a big one. So yeah, check those out. We just did our new game show. Check that out. Top 12 Frenzy. That was a lot of fun. And so, yeah, I mean, that's what we got. I hope you have some good recommendations for movies. And so for Austin, I'm Jacob, and keep talking about movies.